Hi, I'm Alan. This is Alan's Firearms and Guns Plus More. And today, the first gun I'm doing since I'm back from my open heart is this puppy, the Walther P38. Very recognizable. If you're a fan of World War II movies, or you're a World War II history buff, or you're into military firearms, you're going to recognize this. Now, this was developed by Walther Arms a little before World War II started. Now, what happened was, in World War I, everybody knows the P-38 German Luger. That was the gun that the Germans carried. Accurate it was, and as fine a pistol as it was, it had some inherent problems. One of which, it was extremely expensive to make. Two, it had its unique toggle system had an inherent problem with dirt. A little bit of dirt and it would foul. And being out in the field, you're going to get dirt. So it was not a great military weapon, though they're highly prized for their accuracy and their unique design. So before World War II started, the Germans were looking for another weapon to replace their P-38s with. Now in 1929, Pal Curley designed a pistol. It never went into full production because it was during the Depression and the money just wasn't there to build it. But it was very unique and very advanced. Walther picked up that design, made some further improvements on it, some further changes to it, and came up with this beauty. So this went into production from 1938 and continued production until 1946 for the war effort. This is an incredible gun. It has modern features that back then were like unheard of. A lot of the modern firearms that we have now are predicated on the features that this gun introduced. Basically the unsung hero of modern firearms. Some of the features we're talking about, the safety was also a decocker, which was back then unheard of. It had a loaded chamber indicator, a little pin in the back here. The slide release was in a nice position, but more along the lines of the interesting things was a static takedown lever. So there was a takedown lever to take it down that you didn't have to take out, like the 1911s. It's a pin that you have to remove. This had a magazine release at the heel, like a lot of European guns had. You may say, well, what's good about that? Europe has extremely frigid winters because of the unique demographics of the continent. So when you're out in the field and you have your heavy gloves on, it's a lot easier to throw that big switch in the back with your hand to reload a magazine than to try to fumble to get a little switch. So very unique stuff. It also had, by the way, a lanyard ring on the side. So if the gun got dislodged from your hands, it still was attached to your body and can easily be recovered. A lot of unique features on this firearm. And we're going to take a closer look at it because we're going to take this to the workbench. We're going to field strip it. We're going to lube it. We're going to reassemble it. And we're also going to go over some of the finer points of this gun on the workbench. We'll take a closer look. Also, just so you know, if you're a fan of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., this was used as the Uncle gun. They made some modifications to it. They made it smaller, but they made it so they were able to attach a extended barrel to it, a scope, a shoulder stock, and an extended magazine. And I actually had one of those as a toy when I was growing up. I was a big Man from U.N.C.L.E. fan. And I've always loved this handgun. So this is the P38, and we're going to go to the workbench without any further ado. Okay, so here we are with the P38 Walther at the workbench. A couple of things I want to mention right off the bat that I missed on the opening is that the actual World War II production models started with an alphanumeric serial number. So the alphanumeric serial number stood for what factory it was made in. There were two factories, basically. Actually, there were three, but the two major factories were the Mauser and the Spree work. Now, Mauser, the alphanumeric coding was BYF or SVW, and the Spree work was CYQ. After the war, the production was just numeric. Another way to tell whether it's World War II are some of the other stampings. For instance, this has the 3 Waffen stamps on here, which were the German Nazi and the military stamps. So we talked about some of the unique features of this firearm. First of all, the loaded round indicator is right back here. There is a little pin that will stick out and show you that there is a round in the chamber. Let's make sure this gun is empty. So we pull it, we check, make sure there's nothing in the chamber. There, of course, the magazine is empty, and there's nothing in the mag well. I'm going to put the magazine back for now. You can see how easy it comes out. The hammer stays back, of course, like all semi-automatic or anyway, the single-action semi-automatics, but this is a double action. It's one of the first of its kind for military purposes. Now, the safety, nice big safety on the side, is also a decocker. So you can watch, it will, when I put the safety on, it will decock the gun, and it's in safe mode right now. So I can pull the trigger, nothing will happen. When I take it out of safety, it will be double action. So the first round would fire double action. After that, it's going to fire single action like most semi-automatics of its time. Here is the takedown lever. Very nice that it is part of the firearm and it does not come out. So that's one less part that has to be that can get lost in the field. Now, when you field strip a gun, most of the parts are large. But when you have to field strip a gun that has a little pin that comes out, that's easily lost in the foliage or in the mud or the dirt or wherever you happen to be. When it's attached to the gun like this, it's a small part that's less likely to get lost. Larger parts, yeah, you're taking it apart, but they're easily found if they get knocked off the bench or knocked off your lap, or wherever you happen to be working. There is a lanyard cord right here, which is nice. It's got plastic grips. And this was made in the BYF factory. So this was an actual Mauser production firearm, which gives it a little extra value. Okay, so now let's take a look at the sighting picture on here. As you can see, it is not, as far as sights go, it's just plain notch sights. There's no adjustment on here. The rear sight is dovetailed, so I guess you could, and so is the front, so I guess you could whack them a little bit for windage, but it's a military gun, and when these came out of the factory, they were basically 95, 99% on target. They weren't designed to do bullseye shooting. They were designed for self-defense in the field, so you don't need that kind of accuracy. You just have to hit a 9-inch pie plate, center mass. Okay, so let's take this puppy apart. The first thing we need to do, always, is to make sure that the firearm, of course, is empty. So you're going to pull the slide back, you're going to look down, make sure your chamber is empty, you're going to make sure the magazine is empty. Okay, so the next thing to do in order to field strip this is, I need to put it into safety. If you do not put it into safety, you will not get the gun apart. The next thing we do is we pull the slide back, let it lock into the open position, and dump the mag. This lever right here is going to come down into the forward position. You can see it's at almost a 40-degree angle forward, and it's as far as it will go forward. Doesn't take much to put it there. At that point, you can release it, and it'll just come right apart. Look at that. That's simple. To remove the barrel section from the slide, you're going to push, there is a little button back here. You see this? I'm going to push it forward. You see that little button right here? You're going to push that forward, which lifts up the locking lug, and that'll release the barrel section right from your slide. So there we have it, completely disassembled. Only took about 30 seconds. Now I'm going to clean this. I use Strikehold. It's a CLP, cleaner, lubricator, protector. So it does everything in one shot. You clean your gun with this and you don't have to do anything else. It's done. But because some people still use the old cleaning methods with the old cleaners, I will show you how to lubricate the firearm. If you want to know more about Strikehold, I have a couple of videos on Strikehold and you can see them on my channel. Now, I apologize for the way my voice sounds. A lot of you know I just came back from open heart surgery. This is the first video since my surgery, and my voice still isn't at its 100%. So I'm doing my best. Okay, the first thing we need to do is, this is a spray bottle, so I can just spritz the parts with cleaner and let that soak for a second or two while I'm setting up my cleaning cloths. Now, if you don't have a sprayer, you could just put it right on a cleaning cloth and wipe it on, or pour a little on your firearm. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the slide. So you don't have to do it in this order. I'm just doing it in this order because slide's the closest to me. The parts that have total metal to metal contact, I'm going to make sure I spend particular attention with that, because if a failure happens, if dirt's the reason, it's because of the areas that metal touch metal. Okay, I'm going to get down in all the little cracks and crevices and slots that I can see with the cleaning rag. I'm going to get both sides. Now, most semi-automatics have a very obvious slide slot and rails on the slide and the frame. This particular gun does not really have that. It does have certain areas that do, of course, slide together, but it's not as obvious as a standard semi-automatic. So we're going to get all this. Then I'm going to get in here after I get the parts that I couldn't just get by wiping it. I'm going to get, so I use the stick to do that. Now I use my finger to get all of the easier areas. Now, very important, and I say this on no matter what gun you're doing, the battery. You want to make sure you get the battery clean. In this, I'm going to get behind it like this to get behind the extractor. It's a weird thing to do, but you have to get behind it. Then in front of the extractor that goes over the shell, you want to make sure you get that clean. And the battery, because this is a major fail area. If it's not clean and enough dirt builds up, it will ride over your round, will not extract, you'll get a failure, and if you need this gun for self-protection that were against man or beast, that's a pretty bad time for it to fail. Okay, so there's the slide. Now let's get the barrel assembly. Get a new clean cloth. You can get down in here, all the places that have slots on it, especially if it's got a slot, the odds are it's riding on a metal rail. Okay, so most of the rails and slots are right on this piece right here, so we want to make sure we get that. You lift this up out of the way so you can get down in here. Okay, I'm going to get this pin. I'm going to get the front of this, make sure I get the chamber, front of the chamber. I'm going to stick this in here. Make sure I get inside the chamber. Make sure my chamber is nice and clean so I don't have a round get stuck in there. I'm going to spray some of this down the barrel. Shake it around. Capture the excess. See, there was excess. Cloth on here. Go down and clean the barrel. Now I'm going to take, you guys know I usually don't do this, but in this case, this being a World War II gun, pretty old, I'm not sure how often it's been cleaned. I'm going to actually push a bristle brush down. Now notice, I've always told you when you do use a brush, push it and make sure the bristles come all the way out. Because when you pull this, the bristles are going in a particular direction. They're being pulled against the barrel. And if you try to go the opposite direction, it'll either get stuck in there and you won't be able to get it out, or you're going to damage your barrel or scratch it up. So that's the way to use that. Now I'm going to go back again with a cloth, and you can see that the bristles really loosened up some dirt, so I was able to pull some more dirt out of there. Okay, and now let's take a look at, see if we can get a, there we go, there you go. Let's see if we can get, see the lands and grooves in there. See how bright this barrel is. This barrel is in incredible condition for being at World War II. Now I'm going to wipe down the outside of this. Okay, so there, we got this done. Let's get the frame. Get the hammer. Make sure I get the ramp in here. Okay. Now, okay, so that's good. And I'm going to put a little extra of the strike hold on here. Make sure I get the springs. And this is important. Like I said, the slots are not obvious, but there is right here. Get up and down above, right here, right below the spring. Then the rail on top, next to the spring on top. And get the other side too. Okay. Now, the last bits. Do this, and we're going to get underneath the fingers of the magazine. Okay, now, this is actually a second take, because the camera stopped recording when I was doing this. And the amount of dirt that came out from underneath these fingers was amazing, because it's something that most people don't know to do, which surprises me. But this gun was very, very dirty in there. Now it's nice and clean. And I'm going to wipe down this. Okay. And the last place we're going to do is we're going to mop out the inside of the magazine well. I'm going to go from top and bottom. Okay. Perfect. What's left? Oil. Now you know me, those who watch me. I don't like using a lot of oil on a firearm. It gives media for powder, unspent powder, carbon, and everything else to build up and stick to. So we don't put oil directly on a gun except in a few exceptions. And I always say that while I'm doing the gun. This one is one of those guns, but I'll show you in a second. So oil on a rag, we're going to hit it right where the metal connects to metal. Both sides, the slot and above. Okay. Now, that's where it needs to be oiled. The other thing is, any place that you did touch your gun with cleaner, you must follow it up with wiping it with oil. Okay? Because you have to deactivate the cleaner. The cleaner continues to clean even after you wipe it off your gun. And I don't say clean, it's actually breaking down the finish and the metals of your gun, because that's what it's designed to do, is break down the carbon, which is pretty hard stuff, and the lead and the copper and all the things that shooting leaves behind. And if you don't turn off that oil, if you don't turn off that gun cleaner, it's going to eventually eat up your gun. It's going to destroy your finish. That's why there's so many guns with lousy finishes after a few years. It's also bad for polymer. It will scar up your polymer if you don't get it, if you don't deactivate it. So now, again, here, I'm going to take some oil and go down all the little slots that get metal to metal contact. Here, I'm going to push that up Get underneath it. Get on top of it. The other side. Okay. Now I'm going to make sure I get this pin. Now remember I said sometimes it's an exception? This is one of the exceptions. I'm going to take a drop of oil and I'm going to put it, oops, I put too much, right here. I'm going to get that excess up real quick. And I'm just going to move this up and down, push the pin in and lift this up and down. That's the only place I put a drop of oil on. And I am going to get up all of the excess. Okay. The magazine underneath the feeding fingers, because we cleaned underneath there. And we have to do the slide. Wipe down every place that you touched it with cleaner. And 3 drops of oil. Because here is, again, another spot. We're going to hit it where metal comes in contact with metal. Okay. Make sure we get this all done. We get the battery behind the extractor, in front of the extractor. Wipe down with my finger the big areas. Okay, and that is it. That is complete cleaning. So now let's put this gun back together again. Now in order to get this back together again, we need to line up the barrel section with the slide section. Now you're going to have to play a little bit. There you go. You push that button in again. You have to play a little bit just to get it lined up, but it goes in pretty easily because sometimes this rocks back and forth. Then we take the slide and put this on. Now I'm gonna, once this is on here all even, for me, you could pull it back and lock this in, but I'm gonna put the magazine in just to make it easier for me. So it locks back. I'm gonna flip this switch back in place. I'm gonna release it. I'm gonna check the safety is working. Release safety. Double action is working. Slide stop is working. Magazine release works. And there we have it. Complete disassemble, reassemble, oil, clean, everything. There you go. Your P38 with the basics. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. And until next time. Thanks for joining me for the Walther P38. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. And until next time.